takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, they got me.
Hey guys, welcome to the week 3 recap, week 4 preview. Obviously, 2 of us on the show lost. I think it's the most ever at one time since we've had the Cobb Dash, where 2 of the 3 hosts have lost in a given week, and especially being me and Cobb being the 2 hosts that lost. It's sad on multiple levels, but yeah, how are you guys doing after week 3?
Could be better. I'll let Alex have the stage here in a second. He had a great fight this week. I feel like I shouldn't take up this time. I'll hand it over to him. It was a great matchup, and congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, I we talked about on the show. I think it was just one of those matchups that fit really well, and I really liked my team going into that week. I think it kind of canceled out a lot of your points in certain regards. And I'm very glad to walk away with the win. And I'm ecstatic right now, 3-0, the last undefeated team, especially knowing my team had a lot of upside and second half upside. And, to get off to this good of a start is something that I didn't necessarily predict. And I'm ecstatic. And last night, we saw James Robinson drop 20 points, I think 21 points, getting off to a great start against Ruben, another top 6 team. And if I could pave the way to go 4-0, I would be feeling very, very good about where my team's at. So I'm feeling very good right now going to week 4.
Yeah, like second half, you're like the first half, the top half of your lineup. We talk about being top heavy. You're very top heavy, and I think kind of like with my team, really, that if your flexes just bring 10 to 20 points, I think you're in a really good place because like my team, your flexes aren't really flashy, like sexy names. Upside, Javonte Williams, if he becomes the main guy over there, upside. Jalen Waddle, if he continues to get the targets he's getting, upside. But yeah, I mean, if your flex is continuing to get 10 to 15 points or 20 points like Robinson, yeah, I think you are in a good place, a very, very good place. So yeah, just want to say for me, it was probably the lowest scoring week output wise I've had in a really long time in this league. I can't remember the last time I didn't get over 100 points. I don't think it's ever happened in my Mahomes era. I don't think it's ever happened, seriously. Not counting bye weeks in the Mahomes era. But CP got off, man. I'll give it to me. He pulled out a win on a week that McCaffrey got hurt in the first quarter, the second quarter. I give it to him. I give him props. I think CP wins victory of the week, I would say. Being a top dog like me and in the fashion that he did, it's like a slugfest, not letting me score. Good defense. That's the CP way. So yeah, I'm kudos to CP. I still think he won't make the playoffs. I think my team will be in the final week of the season. So congratulations, CB. You got the week 3 championship, buddy. Like the Oakland Raiders fans are celebrating after 3 weeks like they've won the Super Bowl. Congratulations, guys. You guys won the week 3 Super Bowl. Actually, we always kind of do things on the show before we get into the recaps and stuff. I do want to make a trade proposal to a guy on the show right now. I want to offer my guy Alex over here my 2022 9th round pick for Josh Gordon. In the offseason, you're taking that. So, I mean, there should be no hesitancy there, too. And plus, you were dogging the signing of Josh Gordon. So I'm just curious if you would do this trade.
I mean, I was never on record dogging, the signing. I think that it could be beneficial, and I think that there's upside for it. If this was the offseason, I would definitely do that trade because that's someone I 100% would not keep. And so, given, if you're just going to give me a free 9th round pick, I'd do it. But we're in season. He's got upside potential. There's a chance for him to, help my flexes out down the road, especially with bye weeks. And so for that, I would need probably a 5th in order to get the trade done. If you can't do a 5th, then I think I'm going to hold on to him for a little bit.
Sounds good. You enjoy 2 weeks of him not playing, and then come back to me for that 9th round. They'll turn into a 12th round real quick. But all right, let's get into the week 3 recap here. I'll start off. I'll talk about your guys' game, and then we can, everyone can grab a game. But We already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but Alex really surprised a lot of people beating Cobb this week. And I had a lot of owners text me about Cobb being dethroned, and then me, solidifying as the only as the team of past. I'm still the last remaining undefeated guy, and Cobb wasn't anymore, but Alex became that guy this weekend. But yeah, even with, and I'll say, where I was most disappointed in this matchup, I mean, obviously the score is 159 to 122. I think I was more excited to see a kind of like a high-powered offensive game from Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, and we didn't get that from either one. They cancel each other's out. But what the real big thing was, Kamara had a 19 solid, but between Amari Cooper and Robert Woods, you got a 9 there of those two together, and then Cooper Kupp just tore it up. I mean, that everyone says Cooper and referring to Amari Cooper. I think the real Cooper is freaking Cooper Kupp now. It used to be Riley Cooper, now it's Cooper Kupp. And 27 from him. Yeah, I think if I'm Alex, not that I think Cooper Kupp's not the number one over there. I think he is. If I'm you, dude, there's a couple teams in this league who are reeling right now. You could probably try trading Cooper Kupp to some of the teams at the bottom. I've had some trade discussions with some of these guys, and they're really low on some of these players who may have not, or buy super buy low candidates. You could probably get a king's ransom for Cooper Kupp, but that's up to you to do that. But yeah, all in all, like I said earlier, Waddle getting the targets and catches he's getting, Javonte Williams getting the kind of volume he's getting. I don't know if it's going to be like that every week because they're not going to play the Jets every week. James Robinson, 20 point performances back to back. And I think as last night, as we saw, and last week, because they kind of kept it close a little bit for a little bit. James Robinson's the guy over there, and that's a guy they're going to ride his coattails. I mean, for whatever it's worth, they might go 0-17, but they're going to ride his coattails. But yeah, Cobb's team, I mean, it's still a good team. There's nothing you could have done that been like, oh, you could have changed it up. There's no one on your bench who would have helped you out. So, I mean, no reason to panic. No reason to press the alarm button. You're gonna be fine. Robert Woods is something that you might need to watch out for though, because you do have a good bench, but like, is there a way you can get Robert Woods in, like, get something for Robert Woods? You may have to wait for a week for him to blow up. But yeah, overall, not much you can do here. Alex just had a really good week. I don't think Alex will be scoring 159 that often. Not saying that you won't, but I just don't think you have the firepower to do that every week. Top to bottom, I mean. But yeah, great week by Alex. And yeah, congratulations for being the last undefeated team.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
you good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my team, we talked about it being really top heavy. I think it might be starting to balance out a little bit. Going into the season, Cooper Kupp wasn't supposed to be as heavy a hitter as he has been. And, I'm thankful for the production that he's given thus far. But, I think you're looking at James Robinson putting up really consistent numbers. You're looking at, Waddle, who had, I think, 13 targets, 12 receptions last week. And obviously, Javonte, every single week, and you look at his game log, he's just put up more and more points. He's getting more and more volume. And every single week, he's been getting like 1 or 2 more touches than Melvin Gordon. And, so between that, I think it's really starting to level out my team. Whereas, to get a big week like this, putting up 159, 160, I need my top 4 to absolutely explode. And in this instance, you have someone like Russell Wilson, who, honestly, he might not have many more games his entire season below an 18, below a 20. And, I'm still putting up that volume. And that's obviously thanks to, having that help from my flex. And so, I'm very glad that that's starting to happen. I'm not having to rely on some huge performances, from certain players, and I can kind of rely on kind of an even performance from my team. So I'm glad, to see that starting to happen.
Yeah. Like Dash said, I was kind of hoping this was going to be a Kyler Rush showdown. And it didn't end up being that. And Kyler kind of followed suit with the rest of my team, not really doing anything special. Alexander Madison, I'm glad Paul didn't have that guy. He has all the other handcuffs. But thankfully, I was able to snag him pretty late this year. And that makes me feel a lot more comfortable having Dalvin. Like if he's hobbled, I feel extremely comfortable rolling out Madison. The rest of my team, I mean, I got off to a hot start, and now they're not. They got 2 touchdowns this week. I don't even know how many I got last week. I think it was pretty low as well. But these are just like I'm still like, it sucks not having a big week, but having a slow week and still getting 122. Like I'll take that. I'll take that team all the time. On the other hand, I mean, Alex, his team really put together a great performance. Like we talked about, I'm going to keep knocking myself for choosing Robert Woods over Cooper Kupp in every single league. I knew that offense was going to be awesome, but chose the wrong horse in that race. Jalen Waddle, I want to get the stats on what's the lowest yardage someone's had with 12 receptions. That's 58 yards, 12 receptions. That's crazy. I know a lot of them you got tackled behind the line of scrimmage, but that was a interesting performance. But I have Waddle in another league, and I'm a big fan of him and his promise. But yeah, I mean, off week. But we talked about it on the show last week. This was a great setup for Alex, and he came through, and it's 3-0. And I'm glad it's one of us being the last undefeated, like it should be. So,
yeah, I will say if that stat you were just asking about, go look at Danny Amendola's. I think his last year with the Rams. Dude, he had like 80 catches for like 600 yards that year. So like, I'm sure he had a lot of games like that. Yeah, I will say though, the Waddle thing is interesting. I have him in a league, and I like him obviously, but Jacoby Brissett, I think, is a better passer than Tua. And when Tua comes back, it's going to be Tua's job again. So where's that passing offense go? Who knows? I mean, I think Tua is a bust. I've been saying it for 2 years now. So 3 years now. Even before he was drafted, I was calling it. But yeah. We'll get into your recap or the preview for the following week later on here. But next up, going by the rankings, would be my game, Barry's Pickup Lines versus Mr. MIA. I didn't crack 100 for the first time in like 10 years. Cobb, you talk about this one.
Yeah, we were joking about it last show about how you were easily going to win when CMC went down because we recorded the show after that. And maybe there's some reverse jinxing going on by everyone on the show, and also CP, maybe some DT reverse jinx in there too. Like a lot of people were out for you. But I think it was more people pulling for CP because he's had a lot of injury issues, not just this year, but throughout his entire ownership. He needs to get some better doctors over there in his headquarters. But yeah, I mean, if I'm U-Dash, I'm just chalking this up as a weird week. I mean, the 99 with the team you have isn't going to happen often. I mean, Shepard got hurt. Peyton Barber got like 20 something carries over Kenyon Drake. Gruden's ridiculous. Kelsey, weird saying a 13 for tight ends, a slow week in this day and age, but you know, he's got better days. And then back-to-back weeks of Tyreek Hill kind of getting schemed out of the offense, which a lot of teams are going to do. Hopefully it doesn't continue. But again, I'm not something I'm going to be worried about. One thing I'd be worried about is starting Leonard Fournette every week. But I'm sure you'll figure that out. Maybe that's why you wanted to get Josh Gordon in there. But get the would it be a quad stack? It'd be pretty good. But yeah, rough week for you. I just chalk it up as one of those weeks. CP, it's good for him he's 2-1 with the rough shape that his team's in. I've got to be happy if I'm him. Brandon Cook seems like one of the steals of the draft with just getting peppered in targets. And, you know, it's a guy that fell in a lot of drafts. No one wanted to take a chance on him. CP did, and he's paying him back big time. Hopefully CMC's injury isn't that long. I think Chuba was already confirmed starter this week. I don't think he's expected back next week, but he wasn't put on IR. So Chuba should just be there for a little bit, hopefully for CP. Stafford is probably one of the front runners for the MVP right now. He's looking great with that offense. And then Ridley, just that whole Falcons offense is a mess, but he's still the guy over there. So CP, got to be happy. 2-1. Dash, just chalk it up as one of those weeks.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, which it's the reality versus fantasy kind of argument here, is that I'm happy in the fantasy case that because I was worried with the season kind of extending for one more week. If the Chiefs were somehow undefeated by that point, like it would sit the guys like, in week 15 and not have to worry about anything. The fact that we're 1-2 right now, it's trending in the direction that we're going to have to be playing till the final weeks of the season. So I'm really happy I don't have to worry about any kind of sitting or any of that kind of stuff. So very happy about that and being such a Chief heavy team. So happy about that. Alex, any quick takeaways before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I just think that, your team in this week, obviously the triple stack didn't perform as it should in other weeks. I don't think that was the main storyline for your team. I think, you look at Deebo Samuel, maybe his value could slightly be going down with Ayuk back in the mix, which it seems like obviously you had Shepard who got hurt, and then Drake who, he's looking like the RB3 on the Raiders right now. But it's not too big of a deal. I know that you have T. Higgins, who obviously was out this week. Jacobs might not play this week, but in 2 weeks or so, you're gonna get both of them back and healthy, and your roster will be filled out, and I think you'll be good. It's just maybe the next week or so, this upcoming week, if you can grind out a win, I think you'll be good. So
yeah, we'll get to my lineup for this coming week. To me, it's bad. But yeah, no, I hope so. And that's the thing. If I get Jacobs and Shepard and T. Higgins when they all come back, I don't have to start Fournette anymore. Fournette goes to my bench because my 6 man. So, So the next matchup is, the GOP of the Basement League Plus, that matchup, which was kind of a boring one. Alex talked to us about Make Hotch Great Again versus Chasing Kim.
Yeah, I think, and I had kind of, when I was looking through, a week or two ago, going through some of these teams, I'm actually a big fan of Hotch's team. I think that Hotch, we've talked about us three, having good teams. I think he's right up there. I think that kind of us four really are the top four right now that are going to be competing for the top 2 buy spots, in my opinion. I think that, you could say Ruben seems good, but I really think that he has a well-rounded roster, especially the way that Brady's been playing. I think that, this win, he obviously didn't put up that many points, 133, but he's going against Roden, who we've, talked about. And, maybe we'll talk about Roden a little bit. We were texting this week about, a little bit inactivity from Roden. But that was a pretty easy win for Hotch. We called on the show that Roden wasn't going to put up more than, 120 or so. So he kind of cruised to an easy victory here. But again, you look at the scoring from him, obviously you have 37 from Brady, but it's pretty even across the board. You got a 17, 12, 21, 22. His attack is very even, and that's what I look for in a championship winning team is, the ability to not rely just on 1 or 2 players. And, his team is definitely trending in the right direction. And so I think Hotch's team going forward is something to keep an eye on, especially for, we've talked about, obviously, that kind of that cluster, of the, kind of the 5 through the 9 seed that gets crazy fighting for the bye week. The real competition is the fight for the 2 buy spots. I think that's going to be crazy. And this is definitely a team to watch for going forward.
Yeah, and you also got to look at Tyson Williams as his last flex as he started last week. But then on his bench, he has CEH, Claypool, and then in a few weeks, you'll have Michael Thomas too. So it is really probably like, forget our teams, for example, just forget our teams. I think he has the best team in the league. Just looking at this, I didn't realize how good of his roster he had, like top to bottom. If Brady continues to put up 30 points a game, that's probably the best roster in the league, top to bottom. And I don't think any of us would argue with that. Better than my team, better than yours. I really do think that's looking at that, all those guys stay healthy. Like he's got a better roster than all 3 of our teams. No doubt. You don't want to agree to that, really? I would say right now that's the best roster.
I think he does. I think it's the most well-rounded.
I'm not sold on the last flex spot, but hey, I was saying this
Like 5
after the draft. Everyone was hating on Hotch's draft just because they were so fixated on the fact that he drafted all those QBs.
Yeah.
And I looked at his rosters, like his team's actually still pretty good. Like it's crazy how good his teams became, like despite using all of those mid-round and kind of early picks on quarterbacks. I mean, he should have Damian Harris there instead of Justin Fields.
Yeah.
We forget about that as well. So he drafted well, and I think this was a team that a lot of people underlooked. And I think, he's right on I was looking at the points for too. I think he's only a couple points behind me and Dash right now. So that's a guy that could jump us. He's playing me this week. if I don't get a win here, I'm right down to I don't even know.
Back to the old Cobb.
Yeah. Listen, man. So we'll see, man. His team's good. And Roden, I don't know. His team's a mess.
Yeah. I'm getting off the Roden train. I'm back on my old Roden train. I did talk to him about a trade though this week. That's the guy I was talking about, Alex, earlier when I said like there's a guy you could probably get some. He's not high on Allen Robinson at all, and I don't think anybody should be. I was trying to like get him for like nothing, but like he still wants a little something for Allen Robinson. But I was trying to get him for like nothing. One of my key scraps on my bench. But
if I'm Roden, I'm making a move for a quarterback. If someone has two good quarterbacks, I mean, he has some pieces that people will want.
I mean, he's got Burrow. Burrow had 26 last night, but yeah, no, you're right. It's not.
Yeah, but you don't want that as your QB1, at least not right now.
Yeah,
maybe it trends that way, but
Hodge is trying to trade right now. He's actually, of course, he's going to Roden for a trade because Hodge asked me about a potential trade he's doing. I'm not going to say anything, but he said he doesn't have a third keeper going into next year. He said, I was like, what about Justin Fields? He never responded to me. That was supposed to be his keeper. All right. So the next matchup we have is DK's Dollar Bills versus ZT's fantasy team. ZT going below 500 again for the 6th year in a row. Alex, talk to us about this one. Or no, wait, you just talked about that. Cobb, you talk about this one.
All right.
Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about how this was going to be a decent matchup. I don't remember who I predicted winning this one. I think I said Ruben, but we'll have to check the tape, and I might look stupid. But yeah, I mean, it's only so much you can do. We were talking to ZT throughout the games, and he thought after the 1 o'clock games he had a chance, which didn't make much sense to me because Josh Allen had scored like a 50. But ZT is always going to fight. Yeah, I mean, this is why Ruben went so hard after Josh Allen. When I got him, he sent me the kitchen sink for him and Diggs, and Diggs hasn't had the greatest start to the season. But again, between the two, you're still getting a 58. Chris Carson had a great game. Could have been better. DK finally showed up. Mike Williams, I'm punching myself because I've been a Mike Williams fan since he came in the league. I've drafted him every year, and this is the first year I haven't had him in any leagues. And this is rough, but that's just how it goes. Good to see him blowing up on the Chargers there. And then on the other hand, ZT, I mean, there were some just points left on the board. I mean, you had Antonio Gibson, he got a 14, but that came on one play. It was one reception for 73 yards and a touchdown. And it's crazy to me that Washington isn't using him like Kamara. They still want to use McKissick, which is crazy to me after seeing that guy. Whatever. But and Mike, solid game from ZT. Just left some points up on the board. I think like Sutton, he should have blown up. He was in a great spot, but the Broncos just had such a upper hand against the Jets. They didn't really need to do much. But very good. I mean, it's great to see Ruben bounce, really falling behind the stack and putting up the points that he did this week. And it's good to also see ZT back in the competitive scene. So overall, good matchup.
Yeah. Quick takeaway from looking at this again. I think both these teams are very deep. I think I'm just like looking at how many teams have like other guys on their bench, because I look at my team like, dude, I got nothing, man. But yeah, deep teams from, I would say Ruben has a deeper team with Patterson and Moss on his bench. And then ZT's got Deontay Johnson and Jacoby Myers and Trey Sermon if he ever becomes anything, which I'm not buying. I think everyone who's riding the Sermon hype this offseason needs to check themselves up on their evaluations, because I was not high on Sermon and I'm looking to be right again. Any quick takeaways here, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's an unfortunate start for ZT going 1-2. But you look, he hit his projection pretty much exactly. He projected 135, got a 135. And when you look at his team's not bad. Like when you look at Roden's team, like wow, that has a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. His team's not bad. The issue is it doesn't have that boom factor. He doesn't have any players that obviously Lamar can have a great week, but when you blow up for a week, you might have usually have multiple players that are in the 20s You look at, you take a look across the board here. You have Josh Allen who blew up. You had, DK who basically got a 20, and Mike Williams who got a 30. His second flex got a 30. And I don't think CT's team has that power, but it's a consistent team, and consistency will eventually get you some wins. So I do think down the road that CT has a shot to sneak into the playoffs as a 6 seed. I think we shouldn't write his team out yet, but it's going to be tough. He's going to need obviously some luck against opponents that aren't playing that well, because he doesn't have that boom factor to go out and steal wins.
Yeah. Okay. So the next matchup, I'll take this one. I was the only one on the panel last week to say this team was going to win. Was Kale Fraud. I said they had to win this game or else the stack was over, and they came out and they did it. Stack is not done yet, folks. Between Rodgers and Adams, they came out and did their thing. Rodgers not so much, got 23, but Adams got 26. So when you get a 49 between two dudes, that you're in good hands. And on the other hand, Paul's team, like I'm looking at it, I'm playing it this week, and I don't want to say too much bad things about it, but just look, Daniel Jones, Tyler Lockett. I mean, Daniel Jones and Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore had a good week the week before, but guys like that, you don't start them the week after they have a good week like that. You just don't do that. And then Daniel Jones, as your starting quarterback, I'm just trying to, let's see. Tannehill's his other quarterback. Okay, so he'll probably go back to Tannehill this week. All right. But yeah, Barry's team, they came out strong. I think the worst part of his team is his tight end and his last flex. Devontae Smith, I don't really like that. But as long as the stackers are putting up points, Barry's got a chance in any game. And that was kind of my rationale in saying that Barry's going to win last week. Stackers didn't come out to perform. Barry goes to 0-3. Barry, there's a fire sale going in the MB Stackers world. So yeah, I think the Stackers, when they show up, Barry wins. Just like my team, the Chiefs show up, I win. Stackers show up, Barry wins, and they did last week. And obviously, and Derrick Henry didn't get a 50 last week, so that always helps when Derrick Henry's not scoring high like that. But Paul's team goes to 1-2, kind of interesting. That's a very talented team to be at 1-2. That should be a 2-1 team. But yeah, that's my takeaways there. Any quick takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I told Paul to start Odell on the show over Rondale Moore, and he didn't take my advice. Left some high. He wouldn't have won, but I mean, Odell did do better on his first game back. But I think he corrects that this week.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting because we talked about, the top 4 teams in the league, obviously us 3 and Hotch. And then we talked about Ruben's team being really good and probably being like that solid 5 seed. Now you take a look at that 6 seed. I think it's between these two. I think these two, one of these 2 teams is going to get in. The other one's not. I'm almost 100% certain that it's going to be, that top 5 that I just mentioned, us 3, Hotch and Ruben, and then one of these 2 teams that get in. I actually do really like Barry's roster. And so, maybe some tiebreakers down the road that this game, could be of value, but yeah, I think these 2 teams are going to be, interesting to keep an eye on. Going forward. And this is week 3. And because of the extra game of the season, you play the teams that you play in the first 3 games of the season twice. And so actually week 14, the last week of the regular season, these 2 teams will play each other again. And if everything goes as predicted, this will be the game who gets into the 6th seed, because it'll probably be even records, just off talent from what I'm projecting and seeing some of the other bad teams in the league. These 2 teams will be 6 and 7 going into week 14. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this could be the playing game.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Has there been any news on Devontae Adams at all?
What do you mean?
After that hit?
Oh, that he didn't go into protocol and he just went back in the game?
Yeah.
No. He said he was fine, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like those other teams. I feel like those other teams. There'd be NFL. There'd be a lot of controversy on that because the Packers. No one really cares. Whatever.
Yeah.
The last one, Alex, take this one over for us. It's Stu, who I had him as my Tomato King last week. He defied odds last week against Colonel Sanders. What do you guys say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's great for Stu to get in the win column, and fortunate enough for him, he only put up 114, still got away with the win. Again, I think these are 2 teams that are bottom teams. There's talent within amongst these rosters, but there's just too many gaps in it. And the talent that he has aren't on both teams aren't strong enough, in my opinion, to beat out like the Berries and the and the Pauls for that last flex spot. So these are two teams that are really going to have to get hot in order to really have a chance to win down the road. Unfortunately, we obviously know last year Stu got hit by the injury train. He's reliant upon James White. He doesn't really have many good running backs on his team. Now we know White's out for the season. A couple other Qs on his roster right now. I know Julio's a little banged up. Tough to see that for Stu. Hopefully he can figure something out, maybe make some trades. But that's unfortunate, obviously. And then, likewise, when you take a look at Adam's roster, Robbie Anderson, I think I one of the leagues that I only have 6 bench spots. I think I just dropped him. He is he's not getting any volume over there. And obviously AJ Brown, I don't think is going to play this upcoming week. So there's a lot of, question marks on his team as well. So these are 2 owners that I think need to figure something out. It's great for Stu to squeak away with a bad win. I don't even know if there really is such a thing as a bad win, but 2 owners that need to figure something out. So we'll see, the next couple of weeks if they do something.
Yeah, I think Adam's team is by far, maybe I'm hinting at something ahead, but I think Adam's team by far is the worst team in the league by far, not even close. I had Stu's my tomato king last week, but as I examine it and look closer at Adam's team, I guess AJ Brown not really getting much targets, and he goes injured last week. That hurts, but starting Robbie Anderson and starting DJ Chark, those are 2 guys that you'd only want to start like in the last flex. You're not starting both of them. You're starting one of those guys, unless your team's depleted injury wise. But is he even that depleted? No, it's not depleted at all. No, yeah, that's bad. That's pretty bad. Yeah, Dobbins. Okay, yeah, that's one, but yeah, that's bad. Yeah. Any quick takeaways from this one, Cobb?
Yeah, just 2 teams that like you guys said don't see being that relevant. Maybe they squeak out some wins later in the season against some better teams, but yeah, I mean, Adams, it's kind of going back to the trend of his running back. I mean, Najee Harris carried the load, but Miles Sanders hasn't been doing much. In fact, his running backs really kind of holding him back, kind of the opposite of Paul, where Adams' running backs don't really help him and carry him to victory like Paul's do. Stu, I don't know. I kind of always love the running back situation he's been putting himself into the last couple of years. But hopefully he figures that one out too.
Yeah. And I think with what Alex said about the final 3 weeks is that, so week 3 is the team, the last game you play before getting to the playoffs. I think that game will be the Crown of Tomato King. The loser of that game gets Crown of Tomato King, I think. So that's pretty cool. Forget about playoffs, talk about Tomato King. Okay, so we're gonna go into our week 4 preview. We obviously had a little taste of it last night. Obviously, we're gonna go by rankings wise. So the first matchup, Cobble, you take this one, is DK's Dollar Bills versus Big Berry Sales last night. Ruben an 8 from someone last night, and then Alex had a 20 from J Rob. Talk about it. Who you got?
Yeah. Yeah, the 20 from J Rob. I had the Bengals defense 3 different leagues, hoping that their run D would step up and make Lawrence throw, but they got dominated. J Rob looked really good. Their Urban Meyer finally made some changes, making Trevor Lawrence have the quick throw or just handing it off more to J Rob. And that's going to be great to see for Alex, as he alluded to earlier in the show. I mean, well, like we talked, I mean, Ruben's right there in the top team. Any of these weeks he could go off, and now his Bills stack is going against Houston at home. So that's going to be that there should be some points left there. And I don't think Diggs is going to continue being behind like Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders in points. And then you got Mike Williams against the Raiders, which is going to be, their games are always kind of airing it out. Metcalf kind of taking away Russell Wilson, maybe. Hopefully Wilson kind of continues to lean on Lockett. I haven't heard his status for this week. But no, this is going to be this is probably the game of the week. Maybe between me and then me and Hotch and Alex and Ruben, I think we have some great games on the slate for this week. But after, I mean, it's kind of easy to say this after we saw last night, but I still think Alex being undefeated, I think he continues that streak. I think he just has to fire his team's, on a roll right now. I think Ruben's going to make it competitive. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take the lead, but I think Alex pulls this one off.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to go with that as well. I think it's a bold move starting Zach Moss on Ruben's part. Bold. I mean, he looked good last week, but it's just a bold thing. He's going with a trip stack. Trip stacks, they tend to work. I mean, if we look at the numbers on a trip stack, when you start a trip stack, that works, but it's also we're talking about Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, and the Mahomes, a little different. But trip stacks do work. But I don't think it's enough to overcome I don't know, man. I'm going to slight lean Ruben on the upset this week. Slight lean. Just go Allen, Wilson, Allen against Houston. Diggs, Cup. I think Diggs wins that one slightly though. I think because Diggs hasn't had a big game yet. Diggs hasn't. He's due for one. And we said it last week he was due for one. I think he's due for one. He's due for what Cup had last week, essentially. Moss, Elliott, Hockenson, Waller, Carson Robinson. Will Carson get more than a 20? I don't know. I don't think so. Metcalf, Waddle, Mike Williams, Javonte Williams. Javante's going against Baltimore. I'll go Mike Williams against the Vegas. Because you look at what receivers have done against the Raiders. Receivers had good games against the Raiders. Receivers have. Yeah, I think just going the matchup, I think Ruben wins slightly, though. I actually do like the projection here, 130. Well, it's live now. It's 143, 146. But I like the original projection of I'll say 148 to 143. 5 points. Ruby. Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I like this matchup for myself. I have myself winning this. And obviously having that 20 from, Robinson, is really reassuring going into Sunday and kind of, can take some of the pressure off of me. But here's a couple issues that I have with Ruben's team. You have that triple stack, as you mentioned, and obviously if that stack goes off, we have a ball game. But the issue is you have Zach Moss, right? So if Josh Allen is scoring touchdowns, that, in the red zone, that takes away from Zach Moss. And if Zach Moss scores a touchdown, that takes away from Josh Allen. And then likewise, you have Chris Carson and DK Metcalf. It's the same situation. If one's scoring in the red zone, that means the other isn't. And, obviously, you could say that, if DK scores, that nullifies Russ touchdown. But every time that Russ scores, that means Carson isn't scoring. You know what I mean? So there's multiple situations here where potentially he's getting points left on the board that could have happened, that aren't happening in this game between, having two, players on the same team across, multiple teams there. And then, just for me, personally, I do think Russell Wilson's going to have a good game against San Fran. I think that's going to be high scoring. So I think QB is kind of a wash. I'll say receivers is a wash. I do like Zeke and I like Waller over Moss and Hockenson. I don't think Carson's going to get the 20 there. And then, throughout the rest, I think they kind of cancel each other out. So I do, unless his stack goes off, I do like myself winning this game. Now, right now, I am 50-50 about my third flex spot. I'm either between Javonte right now and Hunter Renfrow. I'm kind of torn. I know Javonte against Baltimore, 2 weeks ago, we saw what they did to CEH. Didn't really put anything up fantasy-wise. So I actually think I might end up putting Renfrow in there just as a safe floor. He's been getting consistent, 11 points each week without a touchdown. If he scores, you saw last week at a 16. So that change might happen. But I feel good about this game overall, and I'm looking to go 4-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good game. I won't be surprised if you win, but that's why it's like an underdog pick. I think Ruben has a little slight chance there, but yeah, it's a good point about being made when you have the stack with the running back and the quarterback, especially when you have a mobile quarterback where they can easily take away, carries and touchdowns from the running back. That's why my trip stacks have never involved my running back. I did it once last year and I lost in the championship. What? Yeah, that was the quad stack though. All right, so next matchup, going by rankings, is Bears pickup lines versus O Delta variant. Alex, who you got here?
Yeah, so this is an interesting game. These are two teams. Obviously, we talked about your team being a top 4 team, and we talked about Paul, fighting for a playoff spot. So these are two potential teams that could play each other in the playoffs. And so this is an interesting matchup. Obviously, you take a look at Ryan Tannehill against the Jets, and you're like, okay, that offense should explode against them. But I think that Derrick Henry is going to be the one to explode. And so again, like we said, you got the quarterback and the running back stack there. It's going to eat away some points. And so you love Mahomes. The good thing about the Chiefs going 1-2 is that it adds fuel to Mahomes' fire. And I think that they're looking for a bounce back game. Tyreek Hill hasn't really been involved since week 1. I think the Chiefs are going to explode this week and make a statement to the league. I know people have been, talking negatively about them a lot. And so I think that is going to explode for you. And, you take a look at the top 2. I think that favors you heavily. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a great week. So I think he blows out Fournette. I think Kelsey blows out Tanyan. And then I do like his flexes. Here. So I'm going to have this as the highest scoring game of the week. I think this is going to be a blowout. I'm leaning you right now. And excuse me, not a blowout. I think this is going to be, a very close matchup that blows up in terms of, volume. I'm going to go 160. I'm going to go like 168 to 163 in favor of you. And I think the only way you squeak this out is the Chiefs blowing up, because I think you look at everything else, you look at all other positions that aren't Chief players. I like Derrick Henry over Fournette. I like Chubb over Samuel. I like Barkley over Will Fuller. I don't know if Jacobs is going to play. You got Hubbard, who is, you should get good volume, with CMC out. The offense does like the running backs. And so I think every position that isn't a Chiefs player, I have him winning that matchup. But, hopefully for your sake, the volume where the Chiefs players win on their individual matchups is enough for you to steal this victory. And so if the Chiefs blow up, I got you winning this game. And I think they're due for that. So I think you do. But again, I got this as maybe the closest game of the week and the highest scoring game of the week.
Cobb, any quick takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize you were playing Paul this week. And I mean, CP's sitting at 6th spot right now. The top 6 teams are all playing to each other this week. That's pretty exciting. So, I mean, I think, your stack against Philly, I mean, that's going to keep you into any game. We say that every show. But I do think Derrick Henry against the Jets, going against Fournette against the Patriots, is kind of a situation I wouldn't want to be a part of. And hopefully you get Josh Jacobs in there and actually playing. So Peyton Barber just goes away. It's just it's going to come down, as it does every week, to Paul's running backs. Without Antonio Brown, without Julio Jones, I think the Jets would sell out and make Tannehill pass. Like, don't let Derrick Henry beat you, which is easier said than done, obviously. But I don't know. This is going to be a close one, another close one. I mean, just because of the stack, I'm going to go Dash. I didn't give a projection last game. I had Alex 150, 143. This one, I have Dash 145 to 137.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think like the way we're talking about Henry versus Fournette, which is a fair assessment there. I think it's the same with Kelsey and Tanyan. I think Kelsey's going to blow out whatever Tanyan gets. So I think that, like, when you see big disparities like that, okay, well, they could kind of cancel out because you'll see different. And I also think Mahomes versus Tannehill, I think he'll blow out whatever Tannehill gets. So I think in ways like that, and also I think Lockett's due for a bust week because he's been outperforming whatever we thought he was going to do this year already. Tyreek Hill hasn't done shit in 2 weeks. So I think Tyreek Hill could outperform whatever Lockett does as well. So there's going to be matches where I have lopsided guys who outscored his guys. And also, this is nothing to do with the game, but he's got Nick Chubb and he's got Chubba Hubbard. It's kind of funny. He's got the 2 Chubbs. But also Jacobs. I have Peyton Barber as well. So if Jacobs doesn't play, I'm just going to plug Peyton Barber in on Monday night.
Yeah. Lockett might not even play either. In which case, Paul would finally start Odell. So
it's interesting why he doesn't want to start him. Yeah, that guy be like my top choice right now.
give him back to me. Jesus.
Right?
Getting disrespected over there.
I need him. I'll take him. Okay. Interesting. I did not think you guys were gonna pick me this week because I probably wouldn't pick myself this week. I'm not confident at all in Will Fullers of the world. Okay, so the next matchup here is probably good. It's a good one. I'll take this one. Is Protect the Throne versus Make Hotch great again. So as you heard, when we're recapping last week, you heard Cobb was all over Hotch's team. He loves it. He's a big fan of it, which makes sense because he's playing them this week. But let's just go matchup by matchup. Murray against the Rams versus Brady against New England. I like Murray against the Rams of those two matchups. Brady at New England, in New England, it's going to be tough. Belichick, they may lose that game, but Belichick's going to put up a good defensive game plan against them. And I firmly believe that game's going to be a lot closer than the way people think it's going to go. Robert Woods versus Lamb. I'm going to go Lamb in that one. Although I could see Robert Woods having a big week. He hasn't had one yet. So it's very due for an explosion here, but that's going to be close. Because I'll lean Lamb just because Brandon Cooks looked good against Carolina. C. Lamb's a much superior number one receiver than Cooks. The Makes getting out of 13 last night. Could have had a lot more. He didn't finish that game. P. Ryan got the last few of it, but he's not getting checked down a lot, which is interesting. 13.7 there. Aaron Jones. What's his he should play, right? Yeah. I like Aaron Jones, 18.9. Yeah, I'll slightly lean Aaron Jones, but I don't think he's going to get much more than a 13. He get a 15, I'm going to think, this week. Higbee, Andrews. I'm going to go Higbee. Andrews hasn't really done much this year. It's all been names so far. I'm going to go Higbee slightly. Kamara, Swift. Let's go Kamara against New York. Cooper, Jefferson. And then Dalvin Cook, Hilaire. Dalvin Cook. Yeah. I'd say Cobb wins in a good game. Probably match of the week, really, with that projection, 150 to 149. Good game here. I think Cobb wins 162 to 153. I do like both these teams, though. Really, I do. Alex, quick takeaway and prediction.
Yeah, I have this really close. I actually have Hotch winning this game. I think, I know that you said, Belichick might have a great game plan for them, but Brady is pissed off and he wants to absolutely smash them. I could see Brady coming out here and easily lighting them up with, 3-4 touchdowns, making it a statement game. I actually, when I was going through all the, quarterbacks this week and based off matchups, these are the two quarterbacks that I have as being, the two like highest scoring guys, them and then Stafford, because I think that game with the Rams in Arizona is going to be very high scoring. And so I think that the quarterback play could, cross each other out. Robert Woods could be due for a big game, but I think overall CeeDee Lamb's going to win that matchup. And I do think Aaron Jones will outscore a 13. I mean, a 13 is decent. I don't think he's going to blow up for, like a 30. I think he'll probably get like maybe a 17 or so and beat it a little bit. I think it's kind of a wash between Mark Andrews and Higbee. And I think also Kamara and Swift are kind of a wash too. I think they've both been playing really well. I do like Jefferson over Amari Cooper. Last two games, Amari Cooper hasn't done much. Coincidentally enough, the last two games is, Cooper's been dealing with his cracked ribs. And so maybe mentally, that's an issue for him in terms of, not wanting to go all the way across the middle, maybe the way they're trying to use him. I think that, also he has CeeDee Lamb on his team. And so, usually if Mark Cooper's not going to have a good game, maybe that could bode better for CeeDee Lamb. And then the last one, this is interesting because, again, this is another week that Dalvin Cook might not play. And so I actually think for Cobb's sake, it's probably better if they just rule him out and you can plug in Madison again, because Madison's going to get very similar volume as we saw last week. He had like a 24. And the issue is if Cook does play, you're not going to bench Cook. And it could be maybe a 1A, 1B situation, especially, they were saying with his ankle injury, they might want to limit his touches and, Madison might steal some reps. So I think the best case scenario for you would be Cook being ruled out because that Madison could be plugged in and have good volume. I think if Cook does play, it could be pretty even actually between him and Hilaire, but I will give that bottom nod, that the last flex spot to Cobb there. Just overall. But I think that it's going to be a pretty close game. But I think between, CeeDee Lamb beating Robert Woods and then Aaron Aaron Jones beating Mixon. I think that's where Hotch wins this game. But again, those are super close margins. So I have this being like a 5-point game.
God, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough stretch going against Alex and then going against Hotch back to back. I just hope my team 2 slow weeks in a row, hopefully bounce back and get back to what they should be. Not a great start with Mixon. I thought he was in a smash spot against the Jags. So only coming out with a 13 wasn't great. He didn't do anything in the first half. So I should be happy that he did get the 13. I think it's really just going to come down to the Kyler Murray versus Brady. They're both going against good defenses. And I think one of these guys is going to throw up like a 15 or 18. Which one? I don't know. I mean, last week, Brady against the Rams had only 1 touchdown, but he got the bonus. So he still put up like 37, which is crazy. And I'm a little worried about Kyler going against the Rams. Because hopefully he's not just running for his life the whole time. But I think it's just going to come down to that. I still have faith in my guys, even after Mixon had kind of a slow night. So I'm going to go with me in a close one, and hopefully I get back on the right track with my guys.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one, but I think you right the ship and get another dub under your column. Okay, so this is another game. At one point, these two guys were fantasy giants and fantasy titans. They both have a championship under their belt. But yeah, it's Hotch's unstable connection versus Mr. MIA. Cobb, what do you think about this one, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 teams that unfortunately don't see making the play. I mean, it's only week 4, so maybe they turn it around. Maybe CMC comes back and CP's team really comes back together. But I think that's where CP is getting held back this week. No CMC. He has Golladay in the starting lineup. Who knows if he plays? He's always getting hurt. Juju also got hurt. I don't know if he plays. Font against Pitts. Kind of have that as a wash. I might even lean Pitts. Henderson. Hopefully he gets Henderson back against Arizona. That would be better than Mike Davis for Stu. But then everything else, I mean, I kind of go, Stu, you have Herbert against Stafford. Oh, never mind. Herbert against Stafford. That's a QB showdown with how they've been playing. But I mean, I still think Stu has the edge here with the stack of Herbert and Keenan Allen. And the only issue is it's kind of similar to how I'm a little worried about Kyler. D-Hop, I'd be a little worried just because he's going to have Jalen Ramsey all over him. But I still think, I mean, talent shows up. So I think D-Hop, he had a slow week last week. I think he's due for a touchdown this week. I think he has a decent game against one of the best, probably the best pass defense in the league. Thielen keeps doing Thielen things, getting touchdowns. I probably have him over Golladay, and then Beasley I have over Juju. So I think it's going to be a close one. I think the projections are pretty good, but I'd probably flip them and subtract 10 points. So I'd probably go 126 Stu, 121 CP.
Alex, takeaways?
Yeah, I have Stu winning this matchup. I think it's pretty even from the top. I think that Herbert should have a good game against the Raiders. I do think Stafford's going to have a great game. I think you can even give Stafford a little nod there. But I think the next two kind of cross each other out. I know Mike Davis hasn't been playing well, but Henderson, he was ruled out last week with I think it was his ribs. I don't know his status for this game, whether he plays. And if he does, I'm sure it's going to be at a limited capacity. I'm sure him and Sony Michel are going to, be sharing touches. And again, that's another situation where, you have the starting running back and quarterback on the same team, especially if he's beat up, and you're relying on a goal line touchdown. I'm sure that they're going to be passing that ball more in the red zone. And so again, that's a situation where Stafford might steal some touchdowns from Henderson, or, because he's beat up, they might want to put Sony Michel in the red zone and whatnot. And so then again, I think tight ends kind of cross each other out. And here is where, for me, I have Stu winning this game. It comes down to his flexes. I like Keenan Allen a lot over Cooks. Cooks has played well, but they really have that sketchy quarterback situation, and going against that Buffalo defense. Kenny Golladay, is questionable to play. I don't trust him at all right now. I think Thielen's been really consistent, and Cole Beasley's been getting good touches again against Houston. They could be up a lot, and so the wealth could be spread out really well, and so I think he'll get his touches. And then Juju, I don't I really don't think he's even going to play. I'm actually benching him in another league that I have Juju. With his status right now, he got hit pretty good last week, and I don't know if he's going to play. So I don't know who he would plug in. But I think because of those issues, with the flexes, I think the top four are very close. You could even maybe say that CP with Stafford has a slight advantage. But for me overall, because of those flexes, I have to give this to Stu. Again, I'm going to have this a closer game, very low scoring. I'm going to go like 121 to 115 in favor of Stu.
Yeah, I think Stu wins. I mean, it's not really a sexy lineup at all. Mike Davis is not even like the main guy over there anymore. Like that. And Cole Beasley. Yeah, I mean, he gets the targets. This is not sexy. Kyle Pitts has been a huge disappointment. He's been a huge disappointment. So what I'm going to say is I think Stu wins. Just because we don't even know what's going on with his lineup. Galladay's probably not going to play, neither is Schuster. I say Stu wins here. The next matchup is what is this? ZT's fantasy team versus Colonel Sanders. Cobb, what do we got here, buddy? Or no, Alex. Alex, what do we got here?
Yeah, I mean, I had obviously we talked about, when we were going through last week's recap of Adam's team potentially being one of those teams that are going to fight for Tomato King. And I talked about, I did mention that I think out of those kind of bottom four teams or so that CP probably has, or that ZT probably has the best shot to compete for wild card. I firmly believe that kind of that 6-7 will be Barry and Paul. I think that eighth team will probably be ZT. And I think if he gets hot and maybe gets, a couple wins under his belt, we'll have a shot going into week 14 to compete for that, hopefully. And so going into this matchup, I think that, the top kind of crosses each other out. Will Mike Evans get more than an 11? He probably will. But, here is one thing to consider. Mike Evans is a huge red zone target. Into this game, he's obviously, with Brady and everything, him getting red zone touchdowns is huge. With the return of Gronk to New England, you have to imagine that they want Gronk to score, that Brady's going to target the hell out of Gronk in the red zone, just as a statement piece. I could see Gronk having a great game. And I think Gronk could actually steal a touchdown from Mike Evans. So I think that, maybe he gets an 11 this week. I think kind of that next little bit cross each other. I think that, again, Gronk and Kittle could even cross each other out, as I was saying, if he steals a touchdown in the red zone there. I know he's a little bit questionable, but he's going to play. I don't think AJ Brown's going to play, so I'm going to give that nod to Sutton there. And then I think that Miles Sanders probably is going to get an 11, just like Jamar Chase. That crosses each other out. And then I think that Pittman and Patrick cross each other out. So I have this actually as a really low scoring close game. I'm going to give a slight nod to ZT. And the only area I'm giving him the nod in is that Sutton over AJ Brown, because I don't know who Adam's going to plug in there for AJ Brown. But other than that, I think everything pretty much crosses each other out in a very low scoring game. You know what? I'm going to have this as my lowest scoring game of the week. I'm going to have ZT winning 105 to 99.
Yeah, I think that's pretty on point. I mean, Adam's team is just riddled with injuries. Like you said, Chark getting ruled out right away, broke his foot or ankle. And then AJ Brown probably not playing is just, I mean, you're already probably further behind than you're going to be. I will say, I think going into New England, I think Kittle over Gronk. I think going in New England, I mean, Bill knows Brady wants to put up points and he probably wants to feed it to Gronk. And I think we shut those two out. And because of that, I think Mike Evans ends up getting a score, which puts CT up. It will be interesting to see that Baltimore-Denver game because, ZT has a lot going on. I could see that just being a slugfest, just trying to run it down each other's throats instead of passing, so that hold back Lamar and Sutton. If AJ Brown was healthy and Chark didn't get hurt, I might have chosen Adam for this game. But because of that, I just think it's too tough, high of a hill to climb. So I'm gonna go ZT, 130 to 117.
Yeah, I think ZT, like we said earlier, I think Adam's team is reeling. Doesn't help that Chark got him a 0 last night. I have Chark in another league. It did the same thing for me. It was bad too because he was like a fringe starter. I didn't know if I was going to start him. But based on this team, it looks like this guy was going to be he was starting him no matter what this week, just based on the way his team looks and the construction of his team. So it's kind of sad there. But yeah, ZT's team is one of the better teams in the league. And yeah, I just think overall, I think ZT wins this game in pretty handily. I'll give him 140 to 120. Is my projection there. Blowout, big time. It's our last matchup of the day or of the week is Kale Fraud versus Chasing Canton. I think, I think the Stackers going a little winning streak right here this week. Obviously, this is one of the worst teams in the league he's playing against, but actually I still like Roden's team. Like that's the thing. I like the guys in his team, but I think overall he doesn't really have a lot of heavy hitters, and Barry has a lot of those heavy hitters: Rogers, Adams, and Eckler. But I could see Rogers and I could see Rogers and them not really scoring that much. Steelers have still have a solid defense, solid. But yeah, let's go pack Stackers here. I'm gonna go 138 to 124, 2 touchdowns. Cup.
Yeah, I mean, looking at he decided to roll out Burrow this week, and kind of back to what Alex had been talking about earlier. He kind of looked like T. Higgins out. The only person he's going to throw to is Boyd, which really just helps Barry in this situation. I would have rolled the dice and maybe stick with Baker against Minnesota. I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game. We'll see. And you could have gotten that stack of that's the difference of like stacking your quarterback with a running back. A running back like Kareem Hunt probably going to score on a pass. If I had or there's a higher probability of that. And he had a great week last week, but I think this is going to be a close one. I think everyone's been saying this is going to be Jonathan Taylor's bounce back game against Miami. Not sure if I buy that with how Wentz has been playing and Quentin Nelson just went down. I think just purely going off of the stack and then like DJ Moore and Eckler, I think Barry wins this one. I think you had a pretty good prediction. I'll probably go 142 to 128.
Alex?
Yeah, I have Barry winning this game as well. And it's a shame for it's really a shame for Roden because we were obviously dogging his team. And when we were going through some of those other teams like CP and Stu and Adam and some of those teams, I actually think that his team, that Roden's team, is actually a little bit better than them. We're talking about in terms of just ranking strictly roster, I actually have him around 9. Again, I had ZT at 8, behind the Barry and the Barry mess there. And then ZT, and then I have Roden's team there. But unfortunately, I think that he loses this game and falls to 0-4. And 0-4, I think, is a place that you can't really recover from. I think he's done after this week. He's out of playoff contention. I know it's super early, 0-4. He's not going to, I just don't see it. There's too many good teams for him to do that. But I don't think his roster overall is the worst team. So I think it actually could be interesting. We'll see if he goes 0-4, if he just starts to wholesale and just rebuild for next year. I think he definitely could do that and just start loading up on some picks and some top level keepers. And, for one of our top teams, that actually is a good person to go to, and you might be able to get a good deal with, a player. I know that, Cobb, with Robert Woods might be looking for a new top receiver. I think you might be able to get something from him there. But yeah, I think overall in this matchup, Barry edges him out there. I think that Eckler is going to edge out Jonathan Taylor. And I like some of the flex matchups, especially with Boyd getting a 6 team. I do think that Rodgers puts up a little bit more than a 26. But yeah, overall, I think it will be a close game. I'm gonna go like 142 to 135 in favor of Barry.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like Roden's team. All Roden needs is a quarterback. So it's kind of a shame if he does lose this week with the quarterback getting at 26. Because I think he's got potential with the solid quarterback on this team. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think Barry does win this one. Barry getting the 500 here. All right. So before we end the show, it's the Tomato King rankings. I'm going to list mine out, and then you guys can say yours and comment on, or I guess point out the differences between the Tomato King rankings and your rankings.
I don't like tomatoes and I don't think they like me. I wouldn't say I hate them and they're not my enemy. We do our best to coexist by staying far apart. I don't like tomatoes, they always make me far too unhappy.
So for 7, we got ZT. I think ZT is a solid team. I think that's a team that's going to be fighting for a playoff spot by the end of the year. He's a 9 seed right now, but I have him as a 7 seed. I think he'll be fighting. He's got a really good roster, and he's got good depth on top of that. At 8, I have Barry. Right now, he's 10th, but with the stack, starting to come together and doing big things, I think he's got a solid team. And right now he's 10th overall. He has some rough weeks to start the season out, but he's getting back into the groove. Number 9 for me, I have CP. That team's really not sexy for me. I lost to him last week, but he beat me with 114. I mean, if my team had a better week, obviously, I would have scored 99. I would have scored a lot more than 114. But yeah, I just don't buy CP's team. But even with McCaffrey back, it still is not he doesn't have a lot of heavy hitters besides McCaffrey. McCaffrey plays 4 weeks a year. Guy's a bum. 10 for me is Roden. I really like his lineup. He's 0-3, but I really like his lineup in comparison to the other guys who are going to come after him. If he had a quarterback, I think he'd be in the running for a playoff contention. 11 for me, I had him as Tomato King last week. I had Stu won. He's got a solid team. Herbert, the Keenan Allen stack. He's got some good guys. Hopkins hasn't panned out yet. Hopefully he will, and then that'll obviously get him back into the playoff conversation. And then 12 for me is Adam. When you start Robbie Anderson, you're starting DJ Chark. You really don't have a bench to even of guys that can come in and maybe start for any of those guys. That's pretty bad. And I don't know what he's going to do going forward with DJ Chark out for the foreseeable. I think he's probably done for the season with a fractured ankle. So curious to see what his lineup looks like from here on out. But I think Adam and Stu are going to be fighting for the Tomato King this year. I really do think so. I honestly, I'd place a bet right now that it's going to be one of those two. I'd be thoroughly surprised if it's anybody else. Even if Roden is 0-3 right now, I still think his team is better than those two, and he'll eke out more wins than those two guys. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'll just go through what mine are. It started off equal, but then it kind of went apart. My 7 is ZT. 8 is Barry. 9, I have Stu. I like his starting lineup. I mean, compared to the people below him, at least with Herbert, Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and then when Julio Jones healthy, I kind of like him over the other teams. I think him and CP are pretty close. And who I have next is CP. Just because of CMC injury, he is sitting at 2-1, which is going to be good. He probably finishes above Stu if Stu can't get a win here this week. But we'll see how that goes. And then I think Roden is in 11th again. Yeah, like you said, I see potential, but none of these guys really get me excited as being your number one option. Your number one running back being Jonathan Taylor, that's not great. Your number one wide receiver Godwin, that's fine, but it's not something that gets me super excited that he's going to have blow up, because there's so many mouths to feed on that. McLaurin's really just held back by the QB play, and then Edmonds, Hunt, Robinson, and maybe Ayuk later down the line. I feel like it probably ended up being a headache trying to choose between two of those guys. And I think he's going to come to a lot of lineup issues. And then firmly in last is Adam. I just he didn't have the best team to begin with, and now injuries are piling up. If I'm him, he's crossing his fingers that someone like Aaron Jones gets hurt, so AJ Dillon becomes usable. which kind of fucked up. Hopefully Adam doesn't do that. But I just don't see him bouncing back. And he just he has no depth. His starters are very in rough shape, and it's just he might need to start shipping out people for some picks.
Alex?
Yeah, so for me, I have Barry at 6. And so then, adjusting that, my top, my bottom 7 rankings or my bottom 6 rankings, I have at 7, I have Paul's team. At 8, I have ZT. At 9 for me, I have Roden's team. I know, if he does lose going the 0-4 hole at the end of the year, getting all the way up there might even be tough. But, just off roster talent, it's still early in the season. I'm putting him at 9. At 10 for me, I have Stu's team. I actually think, out of those bottom 3 teams that Stu has the most promise between Herbert. He's got a couple other, he's got decent flexes. He's got Keenan Allen. He has a viable stack. And so I think that will win him some games. I think he actually wins this week and goes 2-2. And so 10, I have Stu. At 11, I have CP. Once McCaffrey comes back and hopefully, 3 weeks or so, he'll win some games. And so I think he'll stay there at 11. And then, for me at the bottom right now, at this point, with all the injuries he's suffered, I have to go with Adam's team as my Tomato King at 12.
Yeah, so they've forget about the 7 through 11 rankings. That we all are in agreement that Adam's team is by far the worst. It's sad because Adam was actually in his first year in the league. He actually was a solid team. I think he was 3rd or 4th that year in his first year. Obviously, he got rid of Zeke, and that could have been that might have been his demise. Getting rid of the Mixon administration. I mean, he got rid of a lot of guys that kind of got him to where he was. Zeke, Mixon. Kind of sad. But as all things in this league, look at Cobb. The guy was a bottom of the barrel team, scrapping at us 8 through 11 his entire first few years in the league, and guys back-to-back champion winner. You're a success story, dude. People like Adam can look to you and be like, yeah, I want to be like that.
Yeah, soon to be a 3P.
Whoa, wait, what was that? Soon to be a what?
Soon to be a 3P.
Oh, wait, you said that, not him. I thought he said that. You got nothing to say about that, huh?
Oh, I don't need to. I'm one of the only owners that go back to back, man. You can say all you want about the history. You can talk about a guy that's owned the league and he just got his first ship. Getting replaced by a guy that just won 2. Been a league shorter than you, man.
Well, first of all, I wasn't trying to dig you. I was trying to say that you had some hard times in the league. And then
trying to dig me.
You won
through 12.
You know what, Alex? Are you on fantasy? Are you on? Yeah, I'll do it. What was your first year in the league?
No doubt that I had that. I think I definitely finished last at least one season, but I had some 4th and 6th in there. Come on.
Let's see. So I'm gonna go 20. Now your first year was 2014, I think, right? Were you in the league when CP won? No, you weren't. Oh, let's go here. Let's go to the handy dandy rankings. Dude, what was your team name? Were you Get Peasted?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Get Peasted, your first year in the league, you got 6th place. Not bad. Actually made the playoffs. All right, so not 8 to 11 yet. I could be wrong still. That was their first year. Second year in the league, you were you Dashy's Tinder?
No, I think that was Stu.
No, I think that
No, I think that was you. Yeah, it's you.
that was the last place one.
No, you were last place. Yep, there you go. So, all right. Not bad. See, dude, you're already it's a success story right here, man. Who would have thought? A team has no name. You were 10th that year.
Ooh.
Wait, no, that's not you. That was Roden. All right, that was 7th. Sorry. The hell are you then? Brady Lannister. Okay, you were 4th. All right, so you've been kind of all over the map, but you've been to the bottom is what my point is.
No consistency.
you've been in the bottom, and I think that's something that Adam can take away. And guys like Stu too, Stu won it, but he's felt success in this league. Adam's never felt a success in this league, so he can see, Cobb took some punches, but he came back and he won back to back. So you know what, Adam, don't fret, buddy. It'll be okay. All right, guys. Well, I just want to wish you guys good luck for this upcoming weekend. And we'll talk to you guys next Friday.